Soil degradation, it is a serious environmental problem, which is, as we know, soil is a fundamental natural resource and is the basis for all the terrestrial life. If you see the definition of the soil degradation is the change in the soil health status resulting in a diminished capacity of the soil ecosystem to provide goods and services for its end users or beneficiaries. Soil degradation is nothing but change in the soil health status, and it is due to the diminished capacity of the soil ecosystem which will be provided for the goods as well as services for its end users or the beneficiaries. Or we may define this soil degradation is the decline in soil condition which is caused by its improper use or the poor management, usually for agricultural, industrial or the urban purposes. Whatever the decline in soil condition caused due to its improper use or the poor management for the agriculture purpose, for the industrial purpose or for the urban purpose is known as the soil degradation. Or we can simply define this soil degradation as it is the physical, chemical and biological decline in the soil quality. Soil quality, nothing but its productivity and fertility, its use. And whatever the physical, chemical and biological decline in soil quality, it is simply said to be the soil degradation. This soil degradation may be the loss of organic matter, decline in soil fertility and structural condition, erosion, adverse change in the salinity, acidity or the alkalinity, and the effect of toxic chemicals, pollutants or excessive flooding. In this, we have seen the definition of the soil degradation and how it gives the loss. It may give the loss in terms of the organic matter, decreasing the soil fertility as well as the destruction of the soil structure, erosion, adversely changes in the salinity, acidity or alkalinity. It may have the effect of the toxic chemicals, pollutants or the excessive flooding. Then we will see what are the different types of the soil degradation. Firstly, the water erosion. This water erosion may be the sheet erosion, where uniform removal of the topsoil like sheet is occurs. Second one is the reel erosion. Whenever there will be the heavy water flow, it will cause reels in the land or in the soil. And third one is the gully erosion. As and when these reels will enlarge, it will give the formation of the gullies. This is the water erosion. Then another one is the wind erosion. Here is also three types: sheet erosion, reel erosion, as well as loss of the topsoil. In sheet erosion, uniform removal of the topsoil like sheet is carried out. Reel erosion, as and when there is a heavy wind flow, this will cause the reels in the land, or there may be the loss of the topsoil. Largest area occurs under the wind erosion in the Rajasthan, followed by the Madhya Pradesh. Third type of the soil degradation is the chemical degradation, or which is also known as the salt affected soils. There may be the saline soils, saline sodic soils, alkaline or the sodic soils, acid soils, coastal saline soils, acid sulfate soils. These salt affected soils we will see in detail in this course. Then fourth type of the soil degradation is the physical degradation, maybe the waterlogging, surface ponding or submerged soils, subsurface waterlogging, vegetation, degradation as well as the landsliding. All these are the types of the physical degradation. Other degradations are the mining and industrial waste, barren rocky or the stony wasteland, and snow cover areas. If we see the types of the soil degradation, there may be the water erosion, there may be the wind erosion, there may be the chemical degradation, there may be the physical degradation, or there may be the other degradations. These are the different types of the soil degradation. If we see in this picture, here in the first image, we see the sheet erosion, how this sheet of the soil is removed either by the wind flow or either by the water flow. In the second image, the reel erosion is shown, how these reels are formed due to the heavy rains or the more water, more air flows or the winds. And third image is the gully erosion, where the gullies are formed. As and when the reels are widened, it will give the formation of the gullies. Then we will see what are the different factors of the soil degradation. The first important factor of the soil degradation is the climate. And among the climate, temperature, wind and water are the important factors. Second one is the physiography of the soil. Third one is the vegetation. Fourth one is the different soil properties. In this, there may be the physical properties of the soil as well as the chemical properties of the soil. Fifth one is the land use pattern. How this land is used, whether it is used for the cultivation, whether it is used for the forest land, whether it is a barren land or whether it is a wasteland, according to land use pattern. Then soil and crop management. What are the different soil management practices or the crop management practices? These are followed, will also affect the soil degradation. And the last factor is the socio-economic or the cultural setting of that ecosystem. These are the important factors which affect the soil degradation. Then we will see what are the different processes of the soil degradation. Physical process, in that there may be the structural decline which leads to the formation of the sodicity. Soil compaction, which is carried out by the various kinds of the machineries which are used for the agricultural operations. Soil erosion, there may be the wind erosion or the water erosion, which is about 12%. High soil temperature also leads to the formation of the soil degradation. Leaching from the soil, chemical processes. In this, there may be the nutrient imbalance, there may be the fertility depletion, salinization, decline in the plant growth and soil productivity. 6% of the total land area is due to the decline in the plant growth and soil productivity by the salinization. Sodicity, which occurs due to the accumulation of the insoluble salts within the soil. Acidification, marshy lands, particularly it occurs nearby the coastal areas. Reduction condition or the submerged condition, particularly it occurs nearby the coastal area as a submerged soils or where there are the heavy rainfalls and poor drainage. Then biological processes of the soil degradation. Soil biodiversity decreases, decreasing the organic matter, intensive cultivation and soil pollution. These are the biological processes for the soil degradation. If we see the different processes of the soil degradation, there may be the physical processes, there may be the chemical processes, or there may be the biological processes for soil degradation. These processes of the soil degradation, these are shown in a flowchart manner. Here also this soil degradation, different processes, the factors which affect the soil degradation and what are the different causes of the soil degradation. These are shown here. We will see the major causes of the soil degradation. Among this, the soil erosion is the major cause of the soil degradation, which is the soil erosion may be carried out by the water as well as the wind. Second major cause of the soil degradation is the decline of the soil fertility. As there is a erosion of the soil takes place, the fertile soils will be moved from one place to the another place, and thus from the area where the soil is removed, this fertility status of that soil goes on decreasing or the declining. There may be the waterlogging. As we know, as and when there is a poor drainage, it gives the stagnation of the water for a longer period on the soil, and this will lead for a longer period, then it is said to be the waterlogging condition. Salinity, sodicity or the acidity, it is due to the accumulation of the insoluble salts within the soil layers. Shifting cultivation is also the major cause of the soil degradation. Particularly, this shifting cultivation is carried out in the forest areas. The degraded soils, sometimes this term may be asked in the examination, and we must know what is meant by the degraded soils. Whatever the soils which are having the unfavorable physico-chemical and biological condition, that is unsuitable for the agriculture production unless reclaimed, is known as the degraded soils. Whatever the soils which will have the unfavorable physical, chemical or the biological conditions, means unsuitable for the cultivation of the crops for the agricultural production, unless it is reclaimed, then these soils are said to be the degraded soils. Soil erosion, already you have learned about this soil erosion. The main agents of the soil erosion are the water, wind, waves as well as the glaciers. Among these agents, water is the main cause of the erosion. If we see the definition of the soil erosion, the removal of the top layer of the soil by various means, which includes both the events and human activities, is known as the soil erosion. As and when there will be the removal of the top layer of the soil by various means, by events and human activities, then it is said to be the soil erosion. Water cause erosion may be the sheet erosion, reel erosion or the gully erosion. Already we have seen this. Wind erosion also causes sheet erosion as well as the reel erosion, as and when there will be the higher flows of the wind. Decline in soil fertility. Soil fertility is mostly affected particularly in the Punjab, Haryana as well as the Uttar Pradesh. It is the condition when the soil is not giving enough production, even though adequate irrigation or the nutrients these are supplied for the cultivation of the crops. Decline in soil fertility means even though this irrigation or the nutrients are supplied for the crops, even though it will not give the enough production from that soil. This occurs due to the frequent and intensive cropping. Why this decline in soil fertility takes place? Due to the frequent and intensive cropping in the same land, due to unscientific crop rotation. Year after year, if this same crop is cultivated in that soil, then it will also give the decline in the soil fertility, and hence we recommend to have the crop rotation cereal after pulse. This decline in soil fertility due to the extensive and excessive use of the chemical fertilizers. As we know, farmers are applying these fertilizers to give the supply of the nutrients to the crops. But if these are used extensively and excessively, then also it will decrease the soil fertility. Too much use of the pesticides. As we know, these various kinds of the pesticides, these are used for control of the various insects, pests, diseases, or the weeds. And this use of the higher doses of these pesticides gives decreasing the soil fertility. Excess or bad quality irrigation water use also decreases the fertility of the soil. Injudicious use of the irrigation water also decreases the fertility, and waterlogging condition also decreases the soil fertility. If we see this decline in soil fertility, it is due to the frequent and intensive cropping, unscientific crop rotation, extensive and excessive use of the chemical fertilizers or the pesticides, use of the excess or bad quality irrigation water or injudicious use of the irrigation water or the waterlogging condition leads to give the decrease in the soil fertility. Then waterlogging, as and when there will not be proper drainage system, land becomes waterlogged, which results in the saturation of the crops. Normal air circulation not be possible due to waterlogging. It gives decline in the soil oxygen. Salinity, soil becomes saline or the alkaline, particularly in the low rainfall areas. When seawater enters in the lands, this soil also becomes desalined. If we see the salinity problems, as we know, as and when there will be the low rainfall areas, in that areas, as and when there will be increasing the temperature, the evaporation of the water will take place, and along with this water, whatever the salts which are dissolved in this water, soil water, will comes to the upper layers of the soil, and it will give the formation of the saline soils or the alkaline soils. Also, whatever the soils nearby the coastal areas, this sea water will enter in these lands, and these soils becomes the saline soils. Calcium carbonate, which is present within the soil, act as an impermeable membrane to water, and it will give the formation of the waterlogged condition. Thus, this waterlogging, as and when there will not be the proper drainage system, these lands becomes waterlogged, which results in the saturation of the crops. Normal air circulation not be possible due to waterlogging, due to the decline in the soil oxygen. While salinity occurs particularly in the low rainfall areas as well as in the coastal areas, where there will be the entry of the seawater takes place in the lands, or whatever the calcium carbonate content which is present in the soil, this also acts as an impermeable membrane, or it will give the formation of the impermeable layer within the soil, and thus water gets logged. Shifting cultivation or the jump cultivation, it is the type of cultivation particularly practiced in the northeastern states of the India. Here, slash and burn method of the cultivation is followed. After reaping the crops, the land is slashed and burned. The next cultivation will be in another plots, and the burnt land will let uncultivated for a period. In the early periods, the gap between two cultivations in a land was 10 to 20 years. But due to increasing the population and availability of the land is reduced, the gap is decreased to 2 to 3 years. This causes major deforestation, environmental pollution, loss of habitat for the wild animals. The burning of the forest results in the soil erosion as well as the gradual degradation of the soils. One of the important causes of the soil degradation is the shifting cultivation or the jump cultivation, which is particularly practiced in the northeastern states of the India. Here, slash and burn method of cultivation is followed. After reaping the crops, land is slashed and burned, and next cultivation will be in the another plot. The gap was earlier 10 to 20 years, but due to increasing the population and decreasing the land availability, this gap between the two cultivation is 2 to 3 years. Due to this, there may be the major deforestation, environmental pollution, loss of habitat or the wild animals, as well as burning of the forest results in the soil erosion as well as gradual degradation of the soils. Then we will see what are the different consequences of the soil degradation. Soil erosion is the major consequence of the soil degradation. Loss of top soil fertility, nutrient decline as they are washed away by the erosion, either by the wind erosion or the water erosion. Underground water level is reduced, as now we are noticing how this underground water level is reduced in our areas. Loss of vegetation and habitat, if this shifting or the jump cultivation is followed and it is increased, it will give the decreasing the loss of vegetation as well as the habitat for the wildlife. Drought and flood becomes frequent. Recently we have seen how there are the drought conditions as well as how the flood condition becomes frequently occurs, particularly also in the Maharashtra. Rivers get dried off. As and when there will be the drought, these rivers are getting dried off. Adversely affect the economy and culture of the society or our human being. Natural hideouts, these are formed when gully erosion occurs. For example, this Chambal Valley, which is famous for the criminals' hideout. These natural hideouts are formed as and when there will be the gully erosion occurs. These are the consequences of the soil degradation. Then we will see soil conservation methods. For this, the most important soil conservation is the afforestation, means plantation of the trees and management of the tree plantation. Secondly, we can go for the contour ploughing, cultivation against the direction of wind as well as against the direction of the slope should be carried out. Strip cultivation should be followed. Flood control by government initiatives. In the areas where there will be the higher floods due to heavy rainfalls, in that areas this flood control by the government initiatives should be followed. Reclamation of the badlands should be carried out so that whatever the soils which are not under use for the cultivation of the crops can be reclaimed. Windbreaks in land like trees at borders. We can plant the various kinds of the trees at the borders of the land, and thus we can minimize the flow of the wind. We should go for the organic farming, control or restrict the shifting or the jump cultivation, construction of the proper drainage system as and when there will be the waterlogged conditions. Leveling of the gullies should be carried out so that it will not increase the gullies and it will not give the formation of the natural hideouts. Control on the chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Whatever the use of the various kinds of the fertilizers and pesticides which is carried out by the farmers, that should be controlled, and according to the need of the crop, the use of the fertilizers or the pesticides should be carried out. Proper awareness about the need of the conservation should be made among the peoples so that we will be able to conserve the soil and we will not lead for the degradation of the soils. On this topic, you may be asked, define soil degradation and give the types of the soil degradation, or define soil degradation and explain in brief the factors of soil degradation. Define soil degradation and state the processes of the soil degradation. What is meant by degraded soil and give the consequences of the soil degradation, or define degraded soils and give the soil conservation methods for control of the soil degradation. This is all about regarding this topic. We will stop here and in next lecture we will see the another topic.